Welcome to The Explainer. We're going to tackle a topic today that impacts so many new parents, but it's one that can be really confusing, and that's lactational mastitis. We're going to break down exactly what it is, what's causing it, and most importantly, what you can actually do about it.
So you've got a painful red breast while you're breastfeeding, and you're thinking, what in the world is going on? Look, if you're here, there's a good chance you or someone you love is going through this right now. And it's not just painful, it can be really confusing and, frankly, pretty scary. You're just trying to do the absolute best for your baby, and then bam, this happens.
Okay, first things first, just take a deep breath. I want you to hear this loud and clear. You are so not alone in this. It's one of the most common challenges for new parents. So we're going to break it all down step by step so you know exactly what's happening and what you can do about it.
And when I say common, I mean really common. Get this. Up to a quarter, that's 1 in 4, breastfeeding parents will deal with lactational mastitis. That's a huge number. It's one of the biggest hurdles of that whole postpartum period, especially in those first 3 months.
All right, so let's get into what we're actually dealing with here. We need to understand the whole spectrum of lactational mastitis because, and this is really important, it's not just one single thing. Okay, so what are we talking about really? Well, lactational mastitis is basically a whole spectrum of conditions. Think of it like a ladder. It all starts on the first rung with simple inflammation of a milk duct. From there, it can climb up, ranging from just a simple blockage all the way to a bacterial infection. But the key thing to remember is that inflammation is where it all begins. Okay, so let's trace the path from a simple blockage to a full-blown infection. How does this actually happen? How do you go from a totally normal day of feeding your baby to this painful red situation? It's really like a domino effect. First, something causes poor milk drainage. Maybe it's a poor latch, or you've gone too long between feedings, so the milk isn't emptying out completely. Second, this causes swelling, which then squeezes the milk ducts. It's like a traffic jam in there, and the milk gets trapped. That leads to step 3, milk stasis. This is the big one. The milk is just sitting there, not moving. And here's something a lot of people don't know. Breast milk isn't sterile. It has its own natural bacteria. So when that milk is stuck, it becomes the perfect breeding ground for those bacteria to multiply. And boom, that's how you can end up with infectious mastitis. And when we talk about that infection, there's usually one main culprit. It's a bacteria you've definitely heard of, Staphylococcus aureus. You probably know it as staph. Yep, good old staph. It's responsible for most cases. And it's also important to note that these days MRSA, that's the antibiotic-resistant version of staph, has also become a major player we have to watch out for. Okay, this next part is maybe the most important thing we'll talk about, reading the signs correctly. How do you know if you're dealing with just a plugged duct or if it's tipped over into an actual infection? Because how you handle it is different. So knowing the difference is everything. So let's break this down. On one side, you have a plugged duct or engorgement. Yeah, you'll have a tender spot, maybe a lump, but, and this is the but, you feel okay otherwise. You don't feel sick. Now, on the other side, you have infectious mastitis. You still get that firm, red, painful area on your breast, but the absolute giveaway is that you feel sick all over. It's like you've been hit by a truck. You've got the chills, the body aches, and the big one, a fever. That fever is your body's alarm bell screaming, this is an infection. If you don't have a fever, it's probably not infectious mastitis. If you do, it almost certainly is. Okay, so you know what's happening, you know how to spot it. Now for the good part. Let's talk about your path to relief. What can you actually do to manage this and start feeling better? So your first line of defense is supportive care, and this applies no matter where you are on that spectrum. The number one rule, even though it might seem counterintuitive, is to keep that milk moving. So keep breastfeeding or pumping. And hey, even try starting on the affected breast to help clear it out. For the pain and swelling, cold compresses can be your best friend. Don't be afraid to take something like ibuprofen or acetaminophen. And it sounds simple, but getting rest, drinking tons of fluids, and wearing loose, comfy clothes, it all makes a huge difference. But when do you pick up the phone and call the doctor? Let's make this super simple. Here's your timeline. If it's been about 12 to 24 hours, your breast still hurts, and you now have that fever and flu-like feeling we talked about, that's your cue. It's almost certainly infectious now. Time to call and get on antibiotics. Now, let's say you've started antibiotics. If another 48 to 72 hours go by and you're not feeling any better, you have to call back. It's not the time to wait and see. You need a follow-up because they might need to do an ultrasound to check for something called an abscess. All right, let's wrap up with a really important topic: prevention and staying aware. Because once you've been through this, the very last thing you want is a repeat performance. So how can we reduce the chances of it coming back? No surprise here, prevention really circles right back to where we started. The best thing you can do is make sure that milk is draining effectively every single time you feed. Also, if you have cracked nipples, take care of them right away. They're like an open door for bacteria. And I know it's easier said than done with a new baby, but try to manage your stress and fatigue. Oh, and here's something really interesting. For anyone who's had mastitis before, one study found that taking a specific lactobacillus probiotic late in pregnancy could actually cut down the chances of it happening again. Pretty cool, right? Definitely something to ask your doctor about. And one last very important thing. What if it's just not getting better? Look, in almost every case, mastitis gets better with the right care. But if you have what looks like an infection and it just won't clear up even with treatment, you have to follow up. It is so important to get it checked out to rule out other things. In very, very rare cases, something called inflammatory breast cancer can mimic mastitis. I'm not saying this to scare you, but to empower you. Any breast symptom that doesn't go away needs to be seen by a doctor, period. So we've walked through the whole spectrum, right? From what causes it, to how to treat it, to how to prevent it. So I'll leave you with this question. What's the one thing you learned today that you think you could share with another new parent? What's that key piece of information that can help someone else who's struggling with this? Because honestly, sharing what we know, that's how we support each other. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.